From the Beaver County Auto Studios, it is another live Penguins chat here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. A big day today, huh? I shouldn't say big. This isn't bombshell kind of days, but it's certainly interesting, isn't it? Because we kind of like piece by piece, little step by step at Pittsburgh Hockey Now, we are kind of piecing together the Derick Brassard situation, beginning all the way back in September when Mike Sullivan admitted that in his exit interview, Brassard broached the subject of playing left wing just to be more involved. Now, I don't know if everyone knows what an exit interview in hockey is. And essentially what that is, at the end of the season, you essentially go in for a performance review. You, the head coach, sometimes the general manager, some GMs sit in, some don't. Sometimes assistant coaches are there. It's a bit of a powwow. Sometimes it's a little bit contentious. Sometimes it's very cathartic for both sides. Sometimes it's, hey, great job. We really appreciate what you're doing this year. This summer, I want you to X, Y, and Z. And the players sometimes, look, young players don't often, at least they didn't used to, say, okay, coach, well, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Derick Brassard obviously felt comfortable enough last May where he said to Mike Sullivan, hey, this third line role stuff isn't very cool for me. How about left wing like Claude Giroux? I think I could help you. And then he suffers an injury in training camp, which I think was devastating to this entire process. I think it set everything back. It didn't give the Penguins the look they wanted, et cetera, et cetera. So here we are mid-January now, January 16th, and we can confirm, and we did on, I guess, Monday morning. I held the story all weekend that the Penguins expect to move Derick Brassard. Now, late last night, corresponding with one of our sources, because we, believe me, when you're up till 3, 4, 5 a.m. because the hockey game starts at 10 and ends at 1 a.m., you have some time to chat. So all weekend long, I was cultivating every source I've ever had out west, trying to maybe narrow down the whole Derick Brassard thing. And last night, it bore a little more fruit. Our efforts did, as we were able to confirm that Dallas has indeed called the Pittsburgh Penguins on Derick Brassard. The exact time frame of the call, be it this weekend, be it middle of last week, we think it's very, very recently, but I couldn't pull too many specific details. Can't confirm the level of discussions, if we're in full-blown trade talks, or if it's, hey, Jim, we're interested. Let's begin the conversation. The Penguins did have 2 scouts in Dallas last week for the Flyers and Stars game. So you have to figure it's gone beyond, hey, Jim, how's the wife and family? I think we're into some talks, but that's circumstantial evidence, not hard evidence. No witnesses, no sources have come through. So today on the live chat, please use the chat board. If you're brand new, please subscribe and enable notifications so indeed you get notified when we do these. Because the NHL schedule is always wonky, quirky, goofy. These are not on a set day of the week. We try to do them post-game, so we have some stuff from last night to talk about. So we'll get to last night. I want to get to the NHL trade market. There is a bit more to go into on Derick Brassard, and I want to talk about Patric Hornqvist. I haven't figured out how yet to write it. I want to give a big stick tap to Jason Mackey of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. In his 20 Thoughts column, I think it was Sunday, he did a very good job of towing or walking the tightrope between overly concerned and expressing legitimate scientific fact Kind of the emotion of the moment and everything going on. I thought he did a wonderful job. Certainly, it allows, I'd been thinking of how to write it, and when he did that so well on Sunday, I just kind of tabled mine until we can gather a little more information, medically speaking, both about Hornqvist and about concussions. I think that's because Hornqvist has had 5 in 20 months. We want to get deeper into that. So everyone, do me a favor. Hold my feet to the fire on all of those topics. I want to get to everything, plus what you want to talk about. Medina, good afternoon. Hey, Chris, Brad, I see everybody hopping on. I appreciate that very much. Give me one quick second to actually share this on Twitter, although I may lose the chat. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to lose the chat here very soon because I just realized my laptop battery is at 2% and there's no plugs behind me. All the studio equipment is that way. Let me get back to you here. Oh, Apple, when it goes into power saving mode, you get the little wheel, but it's colorful. I do have another laptop over there that I might just jump off screen and grab momentarily. But let's stay with Derick Brassard. I think that's what everyone wants to talk about. I saw a couple questions on the board as well. We know that Dallas has called. Pittsburgh Hockey Now was able to confirm over the weekend that at different points this season, Colorado and Winnipeg have had eyes on Brassard. And what that means is they were watching. They were watching to see if that's the player they want, if that's the player, if their scouting reports are accurate, updating them, and because they have interest in adding him or thought he might be able to help them. Now, I think there's some concern spreading that perhaps Derick Brassard is, how do we say it? There's a little bit of, there's question marks around him right now that there wasn't coming out of Ottawa. There's questions, 31, is he yielding a step? At 31, have some of the injuries caught up with him? Is he able to outskate the guys? Is the game catching him? All of these things, can he score 50, 60 points like he did just a few years ago? All legitimate questions. So I do not think the Penguins will recoup what they invested to get him. Everyone keeps asking, well, what do you think? I gave up my ability to start throwing names on the wall when I started reporting the news on this, because I don't think enough people in the market would understand, and by market I mean the broad hockey consumer would understand. I'm saying, okay, I'm reporting this and I'm speculating this. I have to be very careful on that. Forgive me. Obviously, if the Penguins deal Brassard, they've got a very distinct decision to make. Do they, A, insert Riley Sheahan as your third-line center? I think there's a couple pros to that. There's a lot of cons. Sheahan has not been able to consistently drive offensive pressure, which would mean, in no uncertain terms, the third line would be up to Phil Kessel. The third line would come and go, rise and fall, succeed and fail based nightly on Phil Kessel. I don't necessarily know. The Penguins have said at every turn they like Riley Sheahan as a third-line center. That goes a bit counter to my eyes, my analysis of the numbers as well. But let's take it at face value. So that's decision A. Behind door number 1, Riley Sheahan. Behind door number 2 is the Penguins have to acquire a third-line center. Now, Dallas, let's pursue that thinking. Let's pursue door number 2 a little further here. Dallas has a pair of centers. No, not Tyler Seguin. I saw that. Like everyone's like, yeah, no. I don't see the Penguins taking on that kind of coin for a third center. Just don't see it happening. Especially not one who's about to start. What is it? A 7-year deal, or is he the 7 or is he the 8 and Ben is the 7? Regardless, there's a boatload of money there that the Stars are going to be paying well into the 2020s. Obvious name, Radek Faksa. And the other one that I thought was interesting, Jason Spezza. He's a UFA, 35 years old. His offensive production has slipped to about half a point per game at this point. In his first 42 games, he had 21 points. Or is it 20? Forgive me on a point either way. Perhaps that's why the Penguins were scouting so heavily. Obviously, the Stars' third-line center is a bit more of a known quantity, 25-year-old Czech guy who actually played with Dominic Simone in the 2014 World Juniors. That was Simone's first year, and actually his only year in the World Juniors. With a guy like Spezza, though, boy, what he and Kessel, you imagine the goals. The goals for and the goals against. So I really hesitate to get too deep into that and to advocate for anyone there. Jim Rutherford generally surprises me anyway, so I think it's just the way it goes, right? Oh, my laptop is still on. Let me try to get to all the questions quick here before it goes off. Has the Pens team been together too long, Chris asks. There it went. Darn. Now, it's supposed to be in our... supposed to be able to access the live chat here, but I can't on the little studio. For whatever reason, there's a glitch in the program. No, I don't think the Penguins have been together too long. Look, there's a lot of hand-wringing over the last 2 games. I think there should be a lot of hand-wringing over the last 3 games. They were behind after 2 periods in Anaheim. I mean, Anaheim lost their 12th in a row last night. That team is more fragile than a leggy lamp. So that comeback came with a little bit of a grain of salt to me because when the Penguins applied pressure, it was John Gibson versus the Penguins, and Gibby was good, but not that good. L.A. took it to the Penguins. I thought L.A. pasted them pretty well. San Jose, oh boy, that was a worrisome game last night. And I thought you heard it in Mike Sullivan's voice. That was the alarm clock going off at 5:30 a.m. against the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks were faster. The Sharks were tougher. The Sharks were hungrier. The Sharks were smarter. The Sharks dominated every single phase of the game, and I mean every single phase. The Penguins, the Sharks kind of collapsed the zone a little bit on the Penguins. And so the Penguins immediately, textbook, went to the low to high game. Except San Jose was waiting for it. San Jose's forwards were quick enough and fast enough to be disruptive, and they got a couple 2-on-1s in the first period. Actually, was it 3? At least 2. They had a couple 2-on-1s in the first period from attacking that low to high game. The Penguins never really were able to establish any sort of chip and chase game. Throw the puck to open space and go get it. Whether that's because San Jose was just too fast, had the puck and playing it forward, or it's because the Penguins didn't have the fire to go fight for the puck, that's always a question that's difficult to answer. And San Jose was able to front the Penguins' rush. When you've got a couple of defensemen like Burns and Carlson, well, yeah, that's they've got a pretty good defense, don't they? The Penguins' rush, I thought, was bottled up all night. And so they couldn't play low to high. They couldn't play on the rush. And maybe they didn't want to go bang and crash along the wall. For a moment in the second period, and I'm getting into the X's and O's, which I published as part of the Pittsburgh Hockey Now, the PHN Extra report card, which you can subscribe. The year is $21 for the PHN Extra. All of the extra articles that we do, the special features, the analysis, etc. Hopefully, you'll consider that as well. I forget my train of thought, but yeah, the Penguins X's and O's wise just were a mess last night. And before we get into the NHL trade market, a picture I forgot to use. Look at there. There's Riley Sheahan. And there's, of course, this guy. Who knows what he's going to do? We'll get back to Jim, and we'll get back to Derick. Patric Hornqvist. It's not a coincidence. The Penguins haven't really showed a lot of heart since Hornqvist left the lineup. When the Penguins went through that awful November skid, that was a lot about, coming out of it was a lot of Patric Hornqvist, both on the ice and off the ice. Tell you what, let me close this. Let me get rid of that. I'm going to jump off screen, grab the laptop so I can chat with you all real quick. Look at this old monstrosity that I've got sitting over there. There's not even any cool little Apple logo, is there? So let me dial up the chat here for you. The Penguins have not had that snap since Hornqvist left the lineup. From just the on-ice product, the Penguins are going to have to, and I mean this 100%, they're going to have to find a way to substitute, to replace some of what Hornqvist brings. Now, not having Aston Reese in the lineup, in addition to losing Hornqvist, that's a double whammy. No question about it. But there's still, how many teams would take what the Penguins are able to ice on a nightly basis minus Hornqvist and Aston Reese? They should be playing a lot better. They literally, in the 3 games out west, they have trailed after 2 periods in every single game. All right, I'm coming, kids. I'm coming. I feel like the Blues Brothers. Hold on. I'm coming. By the way, someone donated as a Christmas present. Friend, I'm not quite sure who that is. But Rowdy needed company over here. And so it is. I don't know who can step up to be that emotional spark plug. I've been kind of waiting for a guy like Dominic Simone, although I don't know if he has the personality to do that. I don't know if Simone can be that big guy. I hesitate to bring up Phil Kessel because every time I do, Pittsburgh fans get mad at me. Don't ask any more of Phil. But listen, Hornqvist has had 5 concussions in 20 months. If he comes back too soon, his long-term health is in jeopardy. I mean, really. That's where we're at with this. I don't know if you noticed or not. Hornqvist suffered his most recent concussion with a puck to the face. It wasn't even like it was a hard shot or something gruesome, grotesque, extreme. And medically speaking, when you can suffer a concussion with a softer hit to the face, that means you're in the danger zone. I don't know how to word it any way else. But when you can suffer a concussion from a face shot, that means you're prone to concussions right now. And Hornqvist has to be really careful. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of concern for him in the team. All right, I've got the chat back here. Victoria, I don't get your comment. With all the talent they have, they should just call Cruz? I don't get it. All right, the gang says the deal needs to get done soon. I tend to agree with you, and I think that's why I've paid maybe extra special attention to the Brassard thing, because this is Jim Rutherford's prime time when he strikes. He likes a mid-January deal. You can't let this linger. Brassard was actually really good in the third period last night. But this is when Jim Rutherford likes to strike, as we transition from Hornqvist away. So I think, even though that Rutherford told Josh Yohe of The Athletic that the calls are not any heavier than normal right now, that it's still a typical mid-January, we know how Jim works. From phone call to deal with him sometimes is less than a week or a week's time. Yeah, it came about, last week we started talking, and boom, because he's a horse trader, but he's also fair. He's not trying to squeeze an extra prospect or pick out of people. He comes to a fair deal, what he thinks is fair. Usually other people think it is as well. Done deal. And sometimes he gets creative, like how he got this guy, Derick Brassard. Don't forget, last year at the trade deadline, the deadline came and went before Brassard was a Penguin. The NHL looked at the original deal, and I'm trying to recall what the Penguins originally gave up. I think maybe a first and Gustafsson. Reeves and Ian Cole were not yet a part of it. There may have been some more pieces. My memory is fuzzy. Maybe some of you on the chat recall it. But the NHL said, no. No, the way you're structuring this, the money coming from Vegas and Ottawa sending players back and forth, no. So they were at the table till, what was it? It was in the second period of the Penguins game that night before the deal finally went down. And this guy, Riley Shane, was no longer the third-line center of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think he's a good fourth-line center, not as good as Matt Cullen. I think he's actually a really good fourth-line left winger. I like him in that spot. Riley Shane has found his home on the fourth-line left wing. And so that's why I think the Penguins would benefit by keeping him there. And you actually can notice that rotten old Penguins banner didn't make it the whole show. Look, we'll talk about that banner, the Steelers banner, in a little bit. NES mentions the league parity. Yeah, think about this. The Penguins won, 14 of 16? 13 of 16 and then 14 of 17. And they managed to add a couple points on Columbus. Gain a couple points on Washington. Was literally all they were able to do. Because of these loser points that you're able to get for going to the shootouts, it's almost impossible to get separation. You win 9 or 10 in a row, whatever. Matt Murray won 9 in a row. You roll off the wins. And look, Columbus, the Penguins have lost 2 in a row. Columbus past the Penguins. The Islanders are right there, which would knock the Penguins down into the wild card spot. Take a look at the updated standings right here at lunchtime. Yeah, in fact, the Islanders have passed the Penguins. I didn't notice that originally. Penguins fell all the way to from second place in the Metro a few days ago. Literally, 3 days ago? To second place in the wild card. They've got 4 points on Buffalo, which is a nice cushion. But boy, Buffalo is on fire. They're feeling it. They've got the young enthusiasm. They're on their way. I don't know how much longer Montreal. Did you see? I linked to it this morning. Did you see Antti Niemi? 52 saves in the Montreal win, which is Antti Niemi. Anyway, I do hate I think the scoring system creates a false parity, Addict. I don't think there's that much togetherness from all these teams. I just think teams can get to overtime and get a point on a bad night, which I don't like. I'd like to see wins count for more. When I'm speaking of Hornqvist medically, are you speaking of maybe early retirement? Not touching that with a 10-foot pole, Medina. I'm simply saying that Hornqvist has to be very careful right now. He has to make sure he is healthy before he returns to the ice. Period. No subtext, no hidden there. And I wouldn't mind seeing him be out a little while longer, even after he's healthy. I'm sure he wouldn't. He's not that kind of guy. But when you suffer 5 and 20 months, I think some extra precautions should be in order. Whether it's from, looking ahead to the future, league protocol, team protocol, whatever it might be. Okay, let me... we need to start talking Kessel trade again so we'll start to do work again. No, it wasn't the Kessel trade. It was putting him on the bench in Carolina in the third period. That was the jump start to Kessel. He got the message. All right, that seems to be, I guess I'm caught up on the chat here. Good. So we can actually, wow, I've done 30 minutes already. It doesn't feel like it at all. Thanks for all, helping the time fly. Let's get to the NHL trade market. We know this guy, Wayne Simmonds, can now be had from the Philadelphia Flyers. And according to all the big guns, running around Canada, Drager, McKenzie, Friedman, high interest in Wayne Simmonds. No, I don't. He was a guy that I thought the Penguins should have been just dying to acquire. Definitely can't afford it now. He'll be he's a UFA after this season, and so that's part of the big thing is signing him. I had some other. Where'd my Rangers go? I guess I didn't load in the New York Rangers. Do me a favor. Follow at Pittsburgh Sports Live. We tweet out all of the videos, the locker room stuff, all that fun stuff. And, of course, the YouTube channel at Pittsburgh Sports Live. You're already here. And, well, you know me. And just to have some more fun, let's see. Where is it? There we go. Click on the subscribe button. We're powering to 1,000 subscribers. That's our goal. Before I get back into the NHL trade market, had coffee with a prospective employee is not the right word, but somebody who can come in here to Pittsburgh Sports Live and maybe help out with Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We'll be adding some people here real soon, and I'll be able to do more of the things that I do well. Editing is not one of the things I do well. And so I thought I was just meeting with somebody who had a little bit of experience in some television. It turns out that this person we were meeting with was, I don't want to give it away too much, but she was running a national desk for one of the large television conglomerates. Like, what? So she started dropping all this information on me, and we're kind of new to all this, and I was just, okay. I think I even said, you can stop now, you're above my pay grade. But, we're going to make this is going to keep growing. We haven't been able to figure out the lighting in this room so much yet where I can do stuff with the monitor, which is in the other half of the studio. We're still, it's coming along. Let's just put it that way. 6 months later, 4 months. 4 months later, it's still coming along. All right, back to the NHL. Mutation. I want to get to this question before I get to the trade market. How to fix Malkin's mindset. I feel like he forgets he's getting old. Very good way to put it. I think I've said different. I think I've said same in different words. He's not adjusting to his station in the game very well. Malkin is trying to stick handle. Malkin is trying to go around younger, faster players. Malkin doesn't realize he's got old man strength. He can just plow through anybody he wants. He can make the simple play and get the puck back because, most times he's got Dominic Simone on his wing. And Simone is a wonderful puck retrieval kid. Go get it, Dominic. And when Hornqvist is healthy, you've got a guy crashing and banging the net. Malkin didn't adjust this season for whatever reason. Last year, when the train was put on the tracks, the whistle blew, off it went like the Taggart rocket. If you get that reference, where is John Galt? But this season, Evgeny Malkin, the train has never been put on the tracks. It just has been kind of one thing after another. He and Kessel were a debacle after a while, and I don't know that anybody can help right now. Malkin looked like he was ready to give up last night, and he's been so good for so long that instead of kicking him, you almost feel for him. That he's got to adjust his game. Use those extraordinary hands and his vision and his strength to his advantage. When he figures that out, that maybe he has to play a little bit more like Crosby, a bit more of a low game, and use that vision and the passing down there, he's going to be unstoppable again. But right now, he's trying to force things through the rush, and he's trying to go around guys who are just picking him clean. So that's my Evgeny Malkin analysis. I've seen signs of coming out, and then he'll have a game where he goes right back into it. Yep, the addict reminds me that a certain amount of watch time is necessary. Yeah, well, believe we do very well on watch time. I mean, we are one of the best YouTube channels in terms of watch time. So when we get those 1,000, we will be monetizing it very well. Yeah, was there something with Malkin's skates last night, though, too? Last couple of games, he's been fidgeting and fussing with them. Let me see if I can find my Rangers here. So I wanted to talk about the New York Rangers. I guess I can't. So the best I can do is show you the front page of Pittsburgh Hockey Now today. Did my links. I did my usual thing where I slept in the chair last night because I was writing. So somewhere around 5:30, I snapped to, realized I wasn't finished. So finished up the report card, published that this morning. Got to the daily links. A lot of good trade stuff in there. The New York Rangers are realizing that indeed they're actually, they're really only a handful of points out of a playoff spot, but they might as well be 100 miles. And so they realize this. Kreider, Hayes, we've heard Shattenkirk's name put on the block. So the Rangers could have a Crazy Eddie fire sale. Insane. My voice is getting sore, so I can't do the full Crazy Eddie. I'm sorry. I think the Rangers and the Penguins are a very good match, actually, in terms of if the Penguins need a center, the Rangers are the place that they should look. But I don't know that, boy, this trade market, because it is so flooded, is absolute chaos. It's a buyer's market because so many teams are selling. If the Penguins if Rutherford picks up the phone and calls Gorton in New York and inquires about Hayes, not saying he has, I'm hypothetically here, playing out the scenario, work with me. And Gorton says, yeah, I want a number 1 pick. Rutherford says, oh, no, I don't really like that. There are 4 other teams now Rutherford can call about a third-line center. In past years, you might have a second option. Think of how many teams were just piling in after Derick Brassard. He could go here, he could go there. The Penguins thought they were out. Penguins were one of half a dozen teams. St. Louis and Winnipeg and all of that, just all of that stuff. And lo and behold, Vegas made it work. But it was a pig pile after teams chasing Derick Brassard. You're not going to see those pig piles this year, which is going to make some players affordable, but it's also going to be almost impossible to predict. Anything I say about the trade market now, give it 2 weeks, it will be completely untrue. Unless we report something as news, of course, like Dallas calling the Penguins. But even that doesn't mean a trade is imminent. I hope everyone realized that, right? Just because a team calls doesn't mean that tomorrow Brassard is going to be, in the Big D. And we don't mean, it's the old country song. Who's that, Joe Diffie? Serves me right for trying to quote a country song. Theodore says, once Schultz is back, our defense is set. I think the defense is set now, Theodore. When Schultz comes back, it gets good. The Penguins' defense will finally be worth the price tag. They've had one of the top 5 most expensive defenses now for a few years. And I can't say that they have been getting their money's worth. When Schultz comes back, now bear in mind, February 10th was the target date. Maybe Schultz comes back a little early. Maybe it is on the 10th. He's skating in full pads, by the way. I don't know if you saw that little news item or not. It's going to take Schultz 3 weeks. Once he starts playing, to get his breath, to quote Pierre Maguire, to get his breath, to get his legs, to get his timing, to get all of that. And I will make you this promise now. I'll make all of you watching the YouTube channel here, I'll make you this promise now. I will not ask Justin Schultz about a rough performance. I also will not ask the question, so how do you feel? Only once. Give me one of those, but after that, how do you feel? No more. Do you feel like your game is coming back yet? We'll know. You'll see it. I'll see it. I promise you I won't ask that question. I will find more artful ways. I've got a month to prepare. I will find more artful ways to ask that question. Trade Brass for another third center and find a left wing for Malkin. Maybe Zuccarello. Wouldn't that just be the gift of the Magi? You had Hagelin, who was very good friends with Brassard, part of the three amigos they had in New York City. They trade Hagelin. Brassard is left. If they trade Brassard and get the third amigo, Matt Zuccarello, that would just be almost sad. I really thought that Zuccarello, if he was acquired earlier, could have sparked Brassard. I really believe that. I thought Brassard was in need of a pick-me-up of something, a little gift of some sort. But I think that ship has sailed. Short of a miraculous turnaround, Derick Brassard will be dealt. The Penguins have, from what our sources said on the matter, expect is probably the cleanest word in terms of just precision. Not that there was vulgarity involved. It's almost a fact at this point. We're working other sources as well to find out as much as we can around the Western Conference and a few spots in the Eastern Conference where the Penguins maybe line up. It's been tough. It really has been. Talked to a Central Division source late, essentially in the middle of the night, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and he laughed and said, "Dan, I'm getting mixed signals from this front office on a handful of players. It's driving me nuts." So take that for what it's worth. All right, you all can keep chatting along there. I'm trying to think of anything else. In terms of the Penguins trade market, let's talk about Jamie Alexiak. I'm sure we'll do a lot more of that in the coming couple or few weeks. My colleagues seem to have circled Alexiak as a potential odd man out, which is interesting to me because he and Justin Schultz, I thought, had a tremendous chemistry last year. Like they were a really good second pairing. Obviously, Schultz on the right, Alexiak on the left. It worked. Alexiak is under control for a couple more years and at a very affordable number. And from that, a 6'7" guy who hits you like a ton of bricks, who can play top 4 minutes, who skates pretty well. Yeah, he's been a bit mistake-prone lately, but uneven. I don't want to say sloppy. That's far too negative. Uneven has been, since he's come back from his concussion, he's been uneven. I think he has to just get his footing, get his confidence, get everything rolling. He'll be just fine. But that's who my colleagues have circled as maybe the odd man out when the Penguins go to 9 healthy defensemen. No, this isn't Mike's son. How did that come up? I guess I bumped it by accident. All right, I want to put the final call for chat here. Hop on the board. Let me know what else you got for us. Take me any direction you want. Throw any question you want at me. I'm almost honest to a fault sometimes, so fire away on that one. There was one more thing. What else did I want to get to? I need some thinking. There's me and the little guy, my sweater buddy, over Christmas. That's my grandson. I had that in here just for my own amusement. I don't care if anyone else wants to see it. I like to see it. Take a look at the Western Conference standings. Anaheim has lost 12 straight, and they're 2 points out of a playoff spot. That is parity. We had been told to watch Minnesota on the trade market, perhaps even including Derick Brassard. But you look, Minnesota has now eked into a playoff spot. Not pictured here. The team below Anaheim, 3 points back, is St. Louis Blues. Now, apparently there were some pretty serious, hot and heavy discussions. The Blues sending Schenn to Boston for some sort of package. Hasn't happened yet, but I think it was, today's what, Wednesday? So it would have been Saturday or Sunday. The Blues essentially had their office Christmas party in the Bruins press box. I think it was Saturday night. A Penguins scout was there watching Montreal-Boston. That's who it was. Montreal-Boston. But there were a few scouts, the director of hockey ops, the assistant GM, all in the press box. So that seems to be like, that's a thing, huh? I don't know. Minnesota, though, back to that. The standings can mess with your head. One day you're 5 points out. You win a couple in a row. You leapfrog 4 teams. You're in the playoffs. You're like, oh, well, it is possible. Maybe we don't sell X, Y, and Z. And so we've got that roller coaster in addition to the plethora of players that are available. With the Smith being locked up, where does that leave Jarry and his future? Good question. I probably should do an entire, like 5 or 10 minute video on this, shouldn't I? But I'll answer it now. The Penguins are under no obligation right now to do anything other than stand pat with Tristan Jarry. Jarry is also under contract, don't forget. This year, it's a 2-way deal, so he's making $100,000. Rough numbers. Down in Wilkes-Barre. Next year, that becomes a 1-way NHL deal. So then the Penguins probably have to make a decision. You don't want a kid sitting in Wilkes-Barre making $1 million. My gut, just looking at tea leaves here, no one has told me this. What makes sense for the Penguins is to hang on to Jarry through this season. He's great insurance in case Matt Murray or DeSmith suffers an injury. You plug Tristan Jarry in, and things are not as bad as they could be. If you trade Jarry before the season is over, and one of the top 2 get hurt, I don't think the Penguins have another goalie who can play in the NHL. Is it Anthony Peters is down there as the other goalie, or is he in Wheeling? So I think the Penguins' druthers would be to hang on to Jarry until the summer, then make a decision on everything. However, there's always a however, right? That's my favorite word. To put the fact out there. But, look, if Carolina or Chicago, I don't think Edmonton, although, bless their heart, you'd have no idea what Edmonton's going to do. By the way, Derick Brassard was mentioned as a potential target for Edmonton by some of their media. That's in the Daily Links column today. Edmonton is having trouble in goal. Cam Talbot has fallen off the table. Really, he's in nowhere land. And so they're in trouble in that. Maybe Chiarelli says, hey, we want Jarry, and we'll put Yamamoto on the table. You just don't know. You have absolutely no idea what's coming down, especially from a team like Edmonton. But in terms of Jarry, I think the Penguins would do well to hang on to him, if at all possible, into the summer. Yeah, Colorado has 21 wins, yet are barely above the wild card because of OT and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Can the Pens team beat the Capitals in round 2? Yeah. Let's there is a caveat here. Without Hornqvist and without a suitable replacement for just some of the things he brings, the Penguins are kind of they're a bit of a scarecrow without Hornqvist. You know what I mean? Certainly not a Tin Man. Wait, no, I guess the Tin Man needed the heart, right? I hate The Wizard of Oz. Hated it as a kid. I thought it was hokey, thought it was corny, thought it was dumb. I'm sorry. I never liked it. I never watched it with college friends who watched it overlapping with Pink Floyd. I never went into all of that stuff. I just don't like it. So if I'm screwing up the Wizard of Oz characters, wait. I do know the allegory behind it. You have time, kids? I'll tell you a quick story as we wrap up the show. Who thought you're going to learn something about history? The Wizard of Oz is actually an allegory for the turn-of-the-century society. The Tin Man is the industrialist without the heart. The Scarecrow needed a brain, that's right, because at that time, the country was going to leave the gold standard and include silver and other things, which was going to devalue the money, which was going to hurt farmers at the time. But politicians had been able to rally support in the heartland for the switch from the gold standard. So the Scarecrow were the farmers who didn't have a brain. Who am I missing? Scarecrow, the lion, the courage, was the president, who didn't have the courage to do all that was right or necessary. Am I missing some part of the allegory? This is the stuff I read in my spare time. And you wonder why I spend my spare time alone. All right, my friends, I appreciate you more than you know. Do me a favor. Spread the word on these chats. Share it. Tell some folks, hey, watch this guy. He actually isn't a total idiot. Not a total idiot. And we'll have more toys next time, too. All right, I'm Dan Kingerski, Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Pittsburgh Sports Live. Subscribe, hit that enable notifications button, and if you could, do us a favor and like and share it. All right, have fun. We'll talk to you soon. Have fun.